Welcome back to the first basic topic. So we are studying this chromatography. In the previous video, we have studied two methods. One is the column chromatography, the other one is thin layer chromatography. Now let us go for the third technique, that is paper chromatography. Paper chromatography. In this paper chromatography, as I told you in the previous video, both the phases, stationary phase as well as the mobile phases, are liquids. So we have this stationary phase, a liquid. Usually we use this as water. I will let you know how it is stationary phase. The mobile phase is actually a solvent which consists of liquid mixture in which one component is water. One component is water. That is, if you take two or more liquids mixed with one another, one should be the water. Then in this solvent, in this paper chromatography, this is actually partition chromatography, I told you. So let us take a paper which is actually a specially made paper. For example, there are so many special filter papers which are actually treated with so many solvents to reduce the pore size. The normal filter paper is actually having the larger pore size. But when they are treated with suitable solvents, suitable chemicals, we will get the special filter papers. Say for example, Wattmann 21, Wattmann 22, Wattmann 5, depending on the pore size that we require. Then this is actually the paper hanged by using the clips. So let us say this is the clip. That is actually used, clipped to some glass rod, etc. Again you keep the whole paper in the chamber, in a chamber like this, a cylindrical or any type of chamber. Then you keep the spot. This is containing the components A and B. Then you allow the solvent to move up. When the solution is kept, that is aqueous solution of the components is kept as a spot, we observe that this water is present in all the pores that are present in the paper. It is because of the capillary action. The solvent will be moving or the water will be moving. So assume that this is the pore present on the paper like this. Then in the pores we have this water which is a liquid. That's why stationary phase is liquid. And when you allow the solvent to move up, again by means of this capillary action, the solvent will be moving up. Along with the solvent, these particles also move. They are exchanged between this mixture of the solvent or mixture of the liquids with water. So there is a partition, distribution of the solute between the two liquid systems. That's why we have this mobile phase, a liquid. Okay, the solid stationary phase also a liquid. So this, because of the distribution of the solute between the two liquids, it is actually called as the partition. That's why this paper chromatography is also named as the partition chromatography. And both the stationary as well as mobile phase are liquids and liquids only. When we observe after some time, because of the partition or distribution between the two liquids, the spots will move with different speeds. Say for example, this is component A which is moving slowly, the component B which is moving fast. Then you have to take out the paper after some time. Then if the compounds are colored, we can very easily observe with the naked eye. Assume that this is red colored and this is blue colored. But most of the organic compounds are colorless. And hence to observe, to locate this spot, we have to expose this paper to ultraviolet radiations. So after some time, you should not forget this one. After some time, paper is exposed to UV light to spot out the components. Once the components are observed at different parts, then we can cut that paper part like this. So this part of the paper and this part of the paper are cut, and then they are separated from one another. They can be extracted with the suitable solvents. Especially this paper chromatography we use for the separation of sugars and alpha amino acids. We know very well that when proteins are actually subjected to hydrolysis, either by using acids or by using alkalis, etc., we get the amino acids separated from one another. Those amino acids can be separated by using this paper chromatography. Even the small amounts we can spot out, separate from one another efficiently or quantitatively. So these are some special techniques or modern techniques that we use in the separation of the organic compounds as well as purification of the organic compounds. So this is one part. The next part is, whenever we say an organic compound, it may contain various other elements along with the carbon and hydrogen. So we have to detect these elements that are present in the organic compound. So the next part is the qualitative analysis. In this qualitative analysis, we have the first part, detection of elements. When we say an organic compound, usually it is containing the carbon and hydrogen. But still, to detect whether it is a carbon compound or not, organic compound or not, we have to go for the detection of the carbon and hydrogen. So the first one is detection of carbon and hydrogen. Don't write H2. It is not a gas that is to be detected, it is the element that is to be detected. Usually this is not necessary step to detect the carbon and hydrogen for the organic compound. But to know whether it is an organic compound or not, we have to detect the carbon and hydrogen. Simply what you have to do is burn small amount of compound. The given compound. Then what we get is, when all organic compounds are burnt, they liberate the gases. So when we get this gas, first you have to pass over anhydrous copper sulfate. This is actually white or colorless. When we pass this gas over the anhydrous copper sulfate, this copper sulfate changes to blue. This indicates the presence of hydrogen because this copper sulfate anhydrous changes to blue copper sulfate due to the formation of CuSO4. Because of the presence of the water vapor in this one, it forms the blue colored copper sulfate with CuSO4 5H2O formula. So this is having the blue. This indicates the presence of water in the gas. Indirectly, it indicates the presence of hydrogen. After passing over this anhydrous copper sulfate, the gas is passed through lime water. This lime water changes to milky. This lime water contains CaOH twice, calcium hydroxide solution. Because of this carbon dioxide present in the gas, which is absorbed by this lime water, it becomes milky due to formation of this CaCO3. It is an insoluble material, that's why the whole solution will become milky. So this is a simple test to detect the carbon and hydrogen. First you burn a small amount of the organic compound, pass the gases over the anhydrous copper sulfate, it changes to blue colored CuSO4 5H2O, indicating the presence of water and indicating the presence of hydrogen. When it is passed through the lime water becomes milky because carbon dioxide present in the gas react with copper calcium hydroxide to give rise to calcium carbonate. Because of the turbidity that is produced, the solution appears as a milky solution. About the detection of the other elements like nitrogen, sulfur, etc., we can go for the next video. Thank you.